What up, you fight fans? I'm back at it again. It's me, Jason Filthy Jones, bringing you another fight talk, breaking down everything that went down last week in MMA. I'm talking ONE FC, Bellator, UFC. We got enough MMA coming out of our ears. Now, with all that, guys, let's get to it. Of course, I had to bring out some news and talk to you guys about what went down in ONE FC because it was a craziness, of course, with Alvarez getting disqualified against Yuri Lapiskis. Now, the fight was going kind of weird. One thing I want to tell you guys, this was a really a huge mess up for at least ONE FC going out on TNT because you have the two notorious American fighters that everybody knows in America. If you love MMA, you know Demetrius Johnson, you know Eddie Alvarez. They're some of the best fighters out of the U.S. And now with Eddie getting disqualified, especially on a shot that he shouldn't have been disqualified for, and basically Yuri was getting his ass handed to him by Eddie. It just seemed that the ref didn't understand what was really going on there. And I will admit that there was probably one shot to the back of the head, but it wasn't anything to do with Eddie's, basically his strikes. It was to do with Yuri turning his head. Now, in common rules and MMA rules, especially in America, or if you watch the UFC or Bellator or anything, that wouldn't have been like that. It probably would have been a point deduction or resetting of standing fighters to start them off again from there. And also to check if the doctor would even say if there was any kind of problems or issues with Yuri. Now, sucks for Eddie. He was basically trying to get back on track to get another title fight. Not to get another title fight, to get into a title fight with Christian Lee, but doesn't seem like it's going to be possible because of that. And also, just to give you guys a little background information, you guys should know that there is no actual commission that is covering ONE FC. ONE FC is the people that hire all the refs and all the judges and everything from there. So they are their own commission. Now, the way I feel about it is I think that the refs need a little bit more training, or there might be a language barrier. Who knows? Let's hopefully that they'll be able to pick up and start off a little bit better on TNT on their next fight coming up. But sucks for Eddie. Hopefully, I don't even know if they have a process where he can try to overturn the results of that fight. We'll have to see what happens, see how they play out, see if Chatri treats Eddie as it wasn't a disqualification and he gets a better matchup on this next matchup, or if they even run it back. But with that, that's the way the cookie crumbles for them with ONE FC on that one. Now, the main event fight ended up being Maurice versus Demetrius Johnson. Now, if you guys don't know who Demetrius Johnson is, I don't know what rock you've been living under, or if you guys don't watch flyweights or what's going on, but he is the flyweight king. He is the flyweight GOAT. But with all that, it ended up him coming up short in the fight. Now, guys, understand it seemed like Demetrius was actually putting the pace on Maurice and was able to really take him down at will and was basically doing what he does best, his wrestling and doing his ground and pound and working his way up. But he ended up taking a hard strike from Maurice and he ended up on the floor. And Maurice ended up KOing him with a knee to the head on the ground. Now, as most of you guys would know, basically in America, or if you deal with any other organizations like PFL, UFC, Bellator, any of those organizations, they do not allow knees to a downed opponent. Now, with me, I kind of feel like the knees to a downed opponent would be a better add-on to the MMA world in America or any other organizations, but we'll probably never see that happen. And with that, it means it was something Demetrius got caught with that he's never known. He's been fighting in basically I would call it technically regular MMA in the UFC or in America or in any other organization other than ONE FC, where they do not allow knees to a down opponent. So caught him off guard. He was in a bad position. Shit happens. He got caught. Hopefully he can bounce back. But the one thing I do want to talk about is, did you guys notice the size difference between Demetrius Johnson and Maurice? Maurice seemed like he was literally walking in there like he was probably like a featherweight or a lightweight. And Demetrius looking like a normal flyweight. Now, the thing about it is they do a hydration test in ONE FC. So is he really a bantamweight? Technically, he would be kind of basically a bantamweight. He's not really a flyweight, meaning that you can cut down a little bit but you just have to stay hydrated. There's a lot of tricks and gimmicks with it and everything, but sucks for Demetrius. Hopefully, like I said, he bounces back and we see him in another title shot or another Grand Prix, and he gets up there and basically works the game. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for him to adjust with the knees being added into the game. And with him, he took it like a champ, walked out of there and understood, hey, that was a better guy that night, and that's just the way it goes. Can't wait to see how they bounce back with it. But with that, that's all I really got for ONE FC. So, of course, we got to move on to Bellator 256, which is going to be Ryan Bader versus Leota Mashida 2. Now, guys, this was the kickoff to the Grand Prix for the light heavyweight title. And, of course, before we jump into that main event, I got to talk about a couple other people that were on the card. And that would be Adam Borch versus Jeremy Kennedy. Now, turned out to be a really good fight, stellar fight. Fight was looking phenomenal. Kind of a back and forth fight, but also Borch was basically handling it to Jeremy Kennedy. Now, these are two flyweights that are coming out of Bellator, and they're in the top 10 of the division. Now, if you guys remembered on the last Fight Talk, I talked to you guys about how Bellator has brought out a ranking system for their fighters, and they're going to start moving through the fights and getting people moving through the rankings. Now, we start off with Jeremy Kennedy that was ranked number 8 versus Adam Borch, who was ranked number 3. As we see it, Adam Borch is still doing his thing. He only lost once, and that was to Darian Carwell, and just ended up being a hiccup for him. Wasn't his night. But with him going up against Jeremy Kennedy was trying to come out of there, trying to show that he has hands and he has really good skills. But Adam Borch was able to shut it down very quickly, using his wrestling, mixing in his strikes, and being able just to put on a pace that Jeremy Kennedy wasn't able to keep up, where he was able to get a unanimous decision. Now, with that, where do I see this one going for Adam Borch and Jeremy Kennedy? Hopefully Jeremy Kennedy is going to get tossed back in there, maybe fight somebody in the lower level. I would probably say anybody 6 and down, and we'll see if he's going to be able to move back into that top 5. Now, for Adam Borch, not sure what they're going to do with him right now, because right now we're sitting and waiting for the title matchup, which is going to be Patricio Pitbull Ferreira versus AJ McKee. They haven't really announced when that fight's going to be. I'm thinking it's going to be probably towards the end of summer, maybe the beginning of fall, and we'll see it then. And then maybe Adam Borch will be taking probably the loser of that matchup for title contention, or he's just going to automatically get the winner of that match. Can't wait to see what happens there. Now, up to the main event, of course, was just going to be Ryan Bader versus Leota Mashida. Now, in the first time they met up, Ryan Bader got KO'd by Leota Mashida, but also Ryan Bader was basically kind of just new to the MMA world and the MMA space. He really hadn't gotten his feet wet. Leota Mashida had been an all-around fighter, had been a former light heavyweight champion, and he just got outworked. But in this fight, Ryan Bader came back with the visions. In this fight, Ryan Bader came back with vengeance and was ready to put the pace on Leota Mashida. Now, starting off in the first round, Leota Mashida was using his footwork, using a lot of kicks, and was able to work Ryan Bader to the body and was able to throw a really good high kick. But coming into the second round, Ryan Bader started to find his distance and find his range and was able to work his way in and basically take Leota Mashida down. And from there, after the second round, Leota Mashida was just basically gassed. He wasn't able to handle the pressure, the size, the weight, that Bader was putting on him in every single wrestling opportunity. He was getting him down to the floor, ground and pounding him, throwing some really heavy elbows all the way out to able to eke out a decision. Now, where do we go from here? Basically, we're just going to be sitting back and watching all the next coming up Grand Prix fights for the light heavyweight title. And basically with that, Ryan Bader's telling Scott Coker, hey, you know what? You guys are just going to have to sit back and wait while I go through this Grand Prix. And you're going to have to put the heavyweight title on hold. Maybe you guys need to find an interim challenger, and basically that they'll put up an interim belt for the heavyweight title until Ryan Bader's finished with the Grand Prix, and whoever is holding the interim title, he's going to go out and compete against. Wouldn't mind seeing that. Think it's going to be really good because Ryan Bader is pretty much another phenom in Bellator right now that's just wrecking. He was double champion. He lost the light heavyweight title to Nankoff. But with that, I can't wait to see what the next matchups are going to be for him, to see who he's going to be getting in the next bracket. All right, with that, guys, of course, I'm moving into UFC Fight Night Marvin Vettori versus Kevin Holland. Now, guys, this fight card was a pretty decent fight card. And I have to give a couple of shout outs to a couple of people. First off, got a shout out to Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern came in there looking like a beast, just looking like she's just racking up fights, ready to go, showing her true mama power, ready to go and fight whoever she wants, coming out with the win. Now, I can't wait to see what they do with her. She's screaming for a title shot. I think she might be sitting waiting, and she might have one more fight before she gets a title shot. But who knows? Also, another shout out to, of course, Julian Marquez. Julian Marquez taking care of business and basically putting Sam Alvey to sleep, showing that he's rounding out his game, being able to be balanced, come in now being on a 2-fight win streak. Can't wait to see where Julian Marquez ends up in the middleweight. Hopefully, let's see him get a good matchup coming up next, and maybe he'll be able to work his way into the top 10. Now, moving into this co-main event, of course, I gotta be talking about Arnold Allen versus Sadiq Yusuf. Guys, this matchup was a great matchup. It was a back and forth fight, pushing the pace back and forth between both of them, throwing heavy shots, mixing in the ground game, of course, with Arnold Allen being able to take down Sadiq whenever he wanted to, and just basically ragdolling Sadiq all the way around and being able to ground and pound him and eking out that decision. Now, Arnold Allen is now on a 8-fight win streak. I cannot say, there is no way that you cannot say that he is next in line for a title shot. Now, we all know featherweight is in a huge cluster right now, and sitting at the top is Alexander Volkanovski. Now, Alexander Volkanovski is already booked to fight Brian Ortega, but also waiting in the wings is, of course, Max Holloway. Now, do you guys picture Arnold Allen getting a fight with Max Holloway? But I do think Max is probably going to be sitting and waiting for the next title shot. Or do you see that maybe Arnold Allen should take on another top of the division? And, of course, I would be talking about Calvin Kattar. I think Calvin Kattar would be a really good matchup for Arnold Allen. Or we can probably see what happens between Korean Zombie and Danny Ige. We'll see what goes on there. When am I seeing any of those guys match up with Arnold Allen? I think he deserves a title shot or at least a title contention. That, guys, we got to jump into this main event. And the main event, of course, being Marvin Vettori versus Kevin Holland. Now, we all know that Kevin Holland didn't look the best in his last matchup, which was only a couple of weeks ago. And he's coming back, stepping in for Darren Till against Marvin Vettori. But I have to say, with the way Kevin Holland came out and the way he put on that, at least that first round, he was really giving it to Vittori, showing that he was able to use his length, keeping Vittori at the end of his punches, making it really good striking matchup with Vittori, pushing Vittori out and basically being able to stand on his feet. Now, after that, when Vittori was able to basically crowd the space and get Holland down, it was kind of just a shit show from after that. Holland wasn't able to really put on a decent fight, able to get back up to his feet. He was able to do a couple of reverses. But what I do like seeing here is that Holland is basically starting to improve. Now, what do I think he should happen? Maybe 6 months off, get with a really decent camp with wrestling and just grind out the wrestling. I think Kevin Holland could be a really good fighter still at middleweight. He just has to put on a couple of more pounds and really get diligent on his training and get his wrestling. But besides all that, let's not take away from Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori was looking like a madman, showing off that he has skills and that he's rounding out his fighting style. Now, what do I see with Marvin Vettori? I know he's screaming for a title shot. I just don't know if he's still there yet, because you're coming off a win off of Kevin Holland. So I don't see how the UFC is going to spin it and just toss him a title fight. I think maybe the winner of Robert Whitaker and Kevin Gastelum, we'll see there. Maybe, Darren Till will probably be out for a minute. Would like to still see that matchup come up, but who knows? All things are possible. It also depends on, does Izzy really want to fight him? Now, we do know that Izzy already has a win over Vittori, so there is some little storylines there that could work. But what can I say? I don't think Izzy would actually even want to fight Vittori, because he pretty much already fought that, knows how to handle that, knows what to do with that. But who knows? Let's see how it goes. With that, guys, of course, we got to get into these breakdowns. And boy, do I have some breakdowns for you. There is still so many damn fights. There's so much MMA going on, so much to talk about. Now, first off, I got to start off with ONE FC, which is going to be going down Wednesday night on TNT, which is going to be Christian Lee versus Timothy Nassenkov. I probably butchered that name, guys, but it's a great lightweight title. And also, don't miss ONE FC because there's always a mixture of different styles of fights that they have on there. They got Muay Thai, they have kickboxing matches, they have jiu-jitsu matches, they have some really phenomenal MMA fighters. And if you guys don't know, Timothy already had knocked out Eddie Alvarez. It was Eddie Alvarez's first fight when he came to the ONE FC. He is a guy that hits harder than hell. And Christian Lee is coming out of OC, out of California, and he is a freaking beast. Great jiu-jitsu, great striking, phenomenal fighter, phenomenal martial artist. He's been a martial artist since he was about freaking 4. He's just a great fighter. Don't miss it. If you guys can catch it, catch it. If not, make sure you show up. I'll be here with the recap to let you guys know how that one goes down. Now, with that, guys, right after that on Friday night, we got to hit you with the continuing of Bellator 258 with the continuing of the light heavyweight Grand Prix, which is going to be Nankoff versus Phil Davis for the title. Now, before we break down that main event fight, I got to break down the co-main event, which is going to be Corey Anderson going up against Yagmin Mandoff. Guys, can't really say his name. I would butcher the hell out of it. But we got to talk about it because it's Corey Anderson, who is basically a phenom coming over from the UFC, who was sitting in at one of the top spots, basically sitting at number 2 in the UFC rankings, moving over to Bellator. Now, how do I see this matchup going? I see Corey Anderson just basically putting on the pace, trying to keep it on his feet and trying to get Yagmin Mandoff out of there with his hands and basically being heavy-handed and putting those blows to his face. Now, with that, guys, of course, we got to jump into the main event, which is going to be Vadim Nankoff versus Phil Davis. Now, you guys have to understand. Now, this is a really good matchup. Nankoff is a phenomenal kickboxer, also a really good ground game artist who has some decent wrestling, is always ready to push a pace, and has cardio for days. But he's going up against another top-notch wrestler, Phil Davis, who was also a fighter in the UFC, has really good hands, really good speed, comes out of San Diego, fighting out of Alliance, is just a ground game specialist, pulls off some very weird submissions, but can keep it on the feet. Now, how do I see it playing out? If he can keep it on the floor with Phil Davis, I see Phil Davis walking out of there holding that belt again and being the Bellator champion and moving on through the Grand Prix. Now, if Nankoff ends up taking it, I just see Nankoff tearing through him, basically keeping him on at the end of his punches, throwing them kicks and keeping it up high and trying to get him out of there with a head kick, just like how we got Ryan Bader out of there. Now, who am I picking in the fight? Of course, I'm going to go with Phil Davis. And if I didn't tell you guys, I was going with Corey Anderson in the last matchup too. Now, with that, guys, got to get into this UFC Fight Night breakdown, which is going to be Robert Whitaker versus Kevin Gaslin. Now, this was supposed to be Robert Whitaker versus Paul Acosta, but of course, Paul Acosta ended up getting injured, isn't going to be able to make it to the fight. So in slides in Kevin Gastelum, and trust me, guys, this is a better matchup. This is a matchup I've been waiting for. Kevin Gastelum was supposed to actually go up against Robert Whitaker for a title shot when Robert Whitaker was still holding on to the title. Now, these are two phenomenal middleweights. Can't wait to see how it goes down. But before we jump into that, I've got to talk about the co-main event, which is going to be Jeremy Stephens versus Dracar Close. Now, we have Jeremy Stephens moving back up to lightweight, fighting Dracar Close. And trust me, there's never been a matchup that I don't love watching when Jeremy Stephens is the guy that they're standing across from. Jeremy Stephens is a banger. He's been the little heathen, just a little evil the whole time he's been in this fight game. He is a demon and always bringing heavy hands, heavy punches, and a tough, gritty fighter that brings it, stays in the middle, and always comes forward. Now, Dracar Close brings in some heavy power shots, really good kickboxing, and the way I see this one playing out, I don't see Dracar Close having the means to actually beat Jeremy Stephens. I see Jeremy Stephens getting a very quick knockout in this, or if not, he's going to be just bloodbath fighting with Dracar close, and Dracar close is just going to be coming out the loser in this one. So with that, of course, I'm going with Jeremy Stephens on this one. Now, moving into the main event, of course, we have Robert Whitaker versus Kevin Gastelum. And we both know these fighters are some tough, gritty fighters that have some really heavy hands and some phenomenal boxing. Now, if you were going boxing versus boxing, I would have to give it to Kevin Gastelum. Kevin Gastelum is very quick, always keen, always throwing weird angles, always able to move and using his footwork, dancing around and able to put a pace on people, getting him up against the cage and always ready to slug with them. Now with Robert Whitaker, he is more of an all-round, has some really decent kicks, but he is just heavy-handed with his knuckles, always ready to put it in your face and put you out. Now, how do I see the matchup playing out? It's kind of a tough one to choose from because Robert Whitaker is really looking good after he had that long break. And with Kevin Gastelum, there's still a lot of questions to be asked. He hasn't been back since he fought Darren Till last time. So we're just going to have to see where he matches up. With this one, I think I'm pretty much going to have to be leaning with Robert Whitaker. But with that, guys, that's pretty much all I got for you guys for the fight this week. Got a little bit of fight news. And, of course, I got to hit you with our fight news and talking about what the hell is going on with Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor. Now, don't get me wrong. Dustin Poirier was all in the rights for calling out Conor McGregor for not really basically donating to his charity when he was saying that he was going to donate. But for Conor McGregor to pull the bullshit of pulling the fight, saying that he's not going to fight Dustin Poirier anymore, that he would rather fight somebody else, and that calling Dustin Poirier a hillbilly. Come on, guys. Now, we all know Dustin Poirier is a phenomenal guy, a phenomenal mentor. He is a really good fighter, and he is always trying to build for somebody else and always trying to make sure that his charity gets paid out. Now, with that, kind of turns me off from Conor McGregor, making me feel like he's basically just talking his shit, walking his bullshit lines like always with how he handles things. Hopefully he's going to be dedicated, and hopefully they'll be able to get this fight back on track, and we'll see where it goes from there. Now with that, we're moving into the Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou. It's still up in the air. We don't know what they're doing, if they're going to be able to basically get the matchup done. I'm hoping maybe that it can end up on the same card with Conor McGregor if he's not fighting on this next fight. We'll see. That's all we're waiting for, is to see what these things getting built. Now, a couple of fight announcements that did come up. They are talking about Diego Ferreira versus Gregor Gillespie. Can't wait for that fight. Gregor Gillespie is another fighter that fights in the lightweight division that is just basically a workhorse, grinder, wrestler that will ground and pound you and put you out in consciousness on the ground. Can't wait to see how it goes, but let's see how he handles Diego Ferreira, who is also a phenomenal kickboxer, but very high stakes jiu-jitsu, very good jiu-jitsu game. Can't wait to see how this one plays out. Another fight that they just announced was going to be Dominic Reyes versus Yuri Plexits. This is a very good fight. Can't wait to see how this one plays out. The light heavyweight division is starting to just creep into there. Just start having the stacked up fighter card for them, where they're going to have some stacked up rankings, and we're going to see how they're going to move through the rankings and see who's going to be up for the next title. Talk about to not miss this week is going to be, of course, the boxing matchup that's going down on Thriller, which is going to be Ben Askren versus Jake Paul. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you guys to watch this. If you guys can, don't miss it. If not, don't worry. I'm going to watch it, and I got to talk about it on the next show. I'm praying to God that Ben Askren is going to be able to get Jake Paul out of there, but we're going to have to see. And with that, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this fight talk this week. Sorry, been having a lot of crap going on, a lot of stuff going down. Basically doing landscaping at the house, doing photo shoots, and doing all things. It's always crazy. Things are always jobbled, but I'm always going to be here to try to get out a fight talk to you guys and try to let you guys know what's going on in the MMA space. Now with that, guys, like always, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Hey, man, help a brother out. If you guys can hit that subscribe button so I can get some more subscribers, it would be great. And also, do me a favor, smash that like button so we can start beating this YouTube algorithm. I really need to get the Filthy Report out there so everybody can start hearing about Fight Talk. And of course, Let's Get Geek. And I need your guys' help. So share me as much as you guys can. And like always, guys, I'm always here for you guys. I'm always down for you guys. But before I go, I have to say one thing. We had a huge loss in the hip-hop world this week, and was a great freaking rapper who I loved and honored and cherished a lot. And he helped me through a lot of my problems with his lyrics when I was younger and saved me from some really dark spaces. So I want to send my regards and saying rest in peace to Earl Simmons, who is also known as DMX, and sending out nothing but love to the Simmons family. And with that, guys, let's just have a moment of silence for Earl Simmons.